Because our no protects our yes, if you want to have really healthy, strong, life-giving relationships, it's not only important that you learn how to say no well, it's also important that you learn how to hear no well. Hi, everybody. This is Greg from Heart Tools, where we make it simple to build great relationships. And there are 3 potential steps for hearing no well, and they pretty much track with the 3 potential steps that we talked about in the last video of saying no in a way that is strong and loving. And so the first step of hearing no well is to simply say thank you. Right? And so someone gets back to you and says, hey, I can't babysit for you. I can't loan you that money. I can't work this weekend. Whatever it is, the first step is just to thank them and say, hey, thanks for considering it. Thanks for thinking about it. Thanks for getting back to me, right? Just deliver a quick thank you that they said no to you. And by the way, that thank you will do 2 things for your relationship with the person who says no to you. The first is it's going to be a signal to them that they can trust you. It's a signal to them that you love and respect their no as much as you love and respect their yes, and that you want them always to have equal power in the relationship. You're not there just to use them and get your way. It's a huge trust builder to say thank you to someone who said no to you. The other thing that thank you does is it recognizes that a lot of time that no is hard, right? I mean, we've just done this whole series on how to say no because it can be really challenging for us. So it's good to say thank you to someone who's had the courage to say no to protect their yes. Now, in our last video, we talked about the second part of delivering a strong and loving no is after you say no, then you point to your yes. I can't babysit because we've committed to a date night every Friday night, right? And so the second step that sometimes you'll go to in hearing no well is when the person has pointed back to their yes, is that you affirm their yes, right? And so they say, hey, I can't babysit for you. My spouse and I were trying to really connect and develop romantically, and so we have a date night every Friday night. And so then you'll match with your 2 steps. Hey, thanks for getting back to me. I really appreciate that. I'm so excited for you and your husband and what this date night's going to do for you. That's really cool, right? So if they point back to their yes, then you affirm their yes. The third step of hearing no well is really a ninja level loving well skill that can be so critical for you. And that's when we talked last week about how the third step of giving a strong and loving no is acknowledging the grief that's going to cause someone. And you only do that in instances where you know this is a big deal, right? And so you're not going home for Christmas. And so you acknowledge the grief that's going to cause and say something like, hey, I know this is a huge loss for you because you just love having all your kids and grandkids home for Christmas. I know how much that means to you. And then you point back to your yes again and say, but I just hope you can respect, we really need this time alone, right? And so that's the third stage that you sometimes go to. Now, if someone does that to you because they recognize that the no they're giving you is a huge loss for you, that's a really loving thing for them to do. And what you can do in that moment is just let them know that you own your grief process, right? So the third step, and you only do this if they're bringing up the grief, because if you do it without it, it can feel very manipulative, and you don't want to do that. You don't want to use this to manipulate or guilt or shame people. But if someone brings up your grief, then you would say something like, hey, I appreciate, the fact this is a big deal for me, but I got to let you know I can do it. I'm a grown up. I can hear no. I'm just glad that you and your family are going to have this time together. So you own your grief, and then you point back to their yes again and give them the freedom to say no to you. If you can do these 3 steps, thank you for the no, affirm their yes if they've talked about a yes, and then take ownership of your grief if they have brought up your grief, and then point back to their yes and affirm their yes again. If you can get really good at that, you are going to be one of the safest, most trusted, most loving people in this person's universe, and it will make the relationship go deeper. You may not always get everything you want, but what you will get is a very healthy, life-giving relationship where people have a lot of trust in you. So practice these 3 things. Practice saying thank you, and then if someone else refers to their yes, practice affirming their yes as a wonderful thing. And then if they talk about your grief, then practice owning your grief and absolving them of responsibility for it and affirming their yes again. Simple steps. Practice, practice, practice. That's what Heart Tools is all about.